And you can play this afternoon, Andrea, okay?
Yeah.
Because you have to leave. You told me this morning you wouldn't be here this afternoon, so that's why I would like you to have the opportunity to play it. Yeah.
So, I played it and it was a kind of, here it got like a bit pastorale. I found it just my personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we do 2 8-foot flutes?
You can do that, yes, let's do that. So you play the 4-foot flute an octave lower, and then maybe
just 8-foot.
Just 8-foot in the pedal, yeah? So you see, registration, we talked about the general idea, arranging ensemble music for the organ, going for something that... Now, the first and most important parameter when we decide about the registration, I think, is clarity. It's what the sources say, that whatever we take, we have to make sure that the texture of the piece will be clear. You can hear all the notes in the church, you know. Thereafter, what Lauren said, you know, the association to character, like a pastorale or something, might be something to take into consideration and should be taken into consideration. Affect, pastorale, category, something like that. Okay, let's give it a try. Thank you. Nice. So, what about Cantus Firmus?
Well, he is in the soprano and in the alto. He has a kind of ornamented Cantus Firmus.
Mm-hmm. Could you play for us the melody notes, kind of?
Something like that is the melody,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 And where is the accent in the third measure of that? If you play the alto part. Yeah. So he varies. It's imitation, but he changes the accentuation pattern. So that's a lot to look for. You know, he has this whole note kind of thing. in a triplet measure, and then da, dim, pa, dam, and then tam, ta, dim, pam, pa, pim, pa. So all kinds of patterns, lots of variations on that level. Good. And if you play the second phrase again, where does that phrase end? It's obviously in 18, right? Mm-hmm. What happens with the melody there?
Well, it's first in the left hand, and then it's kind of imitated a fourth higher.
Yeah. Yeah, and then?
And then again, he adds a kind of tail to go back.
But here in measure 8, 9, 10, 11, we don't really have the melody. Sort of, you know?
Yeah, sort of the...
But it's more from the D, we have, again, the same pitch level, right?
Yeah, that's true, of course.
And then augmented, right? Here, no? So it's motivic here, and not like in the first presentation, just the imitation of the melody between the two parts. But he's playing with this motive, like you said, different pitch levels 3 times, and the third time is very strange out in key, a key which we would not imagine, you know? A key that usually never occurs. I've looked in the French stuff, you know, the trios of French composers, and to see, do we find any modulation of this kind with A flat appearing in G minor and moving out to E flat, C minor kind of thing. It's not very common, it's quite unusual. So here is a very interesting element of not following cantus firmus, but picking up motives, presenting them in imitation on different pitch levels, extending the phrase, probably expressing something of that phrase, that text, that requires this kind of attention, and then bringing it back in augmentation to the right pitch level and to the dominant, right? Okay, and then you talked about pastoral events.
Yeah, but it was just my personal, when you play like... Yeah, it's something this... Yeah. These things like...
So, do you have imitation between the two parts here?
Well, here it's mostly in thirds, kind of quite
so
simple.
It's parallel movement, right? A very different approach, composition technique, and giving, I think, an effect that could be experienced like pastoral, like you say, sort of staying on the same pitch level, organ point, and just moving around in parallel thirds, you know? Definitely. So what appears to just continue is actually very different, you know? Dramatic new technique. And that goes on, and the ending is probably the most remarkable. He changes from 3-2 to a C, and then he moves on with figuration, a motive that we haven't heard the suspirans before, right? So that's also interesting. And to ask ourselves, why does he use these different figures, you know? And maybe you have some ideas, maybe you have some time in the afternoon to think about that, and if there is some motivation from text or some other idea. What do you think? Why does he end a piece like that?
Probably it's something in the text.
Yeah, what could it be? I mean, ending something a little bit like this is not uncommon in the Baroque, you know?
Well, maybe it's a kind of Amen.
Amen, Soli Deo Gloria, just something, you know, like that, a little signature at the end, you know? That's very logical and works beautifully and nicely with that approach. And then we have to think about the relation, you know, which note values do we think about? And I think to have the smaller note value basically continue is one possibility. The other possibility, like you have shown, to make the half note.
Yeah, that was a plan I made this morning.
Yeah.
It might maybe work.
I think, you know, we have it just comes to my mind, Buxtehude E minor 142. We have in the second fugue the chromatic extended, the longest Buxtehude fugue. At the end, we have suddenly going back to let's say, common time, you know? And then we have 60 notes suddenly in a context of Ritchie-Carr with only 8th notes as the fastest note value. And I think in these cases, usually the most logical connection is to let the fastest note value in the main part of the composition continue with the fastest note value, so that in this texture like in Buxtehude with the eighth note, the 16 notes will equal eighth notes, you know, that you could continue in that way here. Ta da ti 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 ta ta ti 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 ta ti ti ta. That's one possibility. Or you go with the half note, the whole note being the half note in this measure. You know,
so
that would be the
your
tactus
first
approach.
Option would be.
Yeah. And then with a little bit, not just the notes, but a little bit gesture to it, you know? So it has a little, like when you come here. Something like that, you know. So you're speaking. It's a moment where you're personal, where you're exploring something. But the basic idea would be to continue with the small note value.
Yep.
You know? Okay.
Yep,
Good.
thanks.
Thank you. Let's do the fourth, Herr Jesu Christ Sommen. Yeah. What time do you have now?
It's half. No, sorry, it's actually just 3 minutes to 12.
3 minutes to 12. Okay. Then let's just say that Herr Jesu Christi zu uns Wendt is in terms of form and compositional style very similar to Auf meinen lieben Gott. So the new modern way with no cantus firmus, apparent at least, but playing with the cantus firmus and small motives and ideas with a trio form, and that's the last for this morning, which make me associate to ritornello in opera style and the two-part writing with continue that we find so much in the new music of galant style, French origin with Italian inspiration around the corner, you know, and that's what comes to us through these two trios. And the fourth trio with cantus firmus that we will do aus tiefer Not has that idea but puts it into the context like a cantata movement, and we'll experience that also this afternoon. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.